Hello, good evening everyone. I am Vishal Salsekar and today we are going to discuss the News Today articles for 23rd September. Right? So in today's discussion, we are going to discuss 5 prominent articles in detail, which includes the first article regarding the need to decriminalize the defamation. Right? So we will see what exactly is defamation and how the Supreme Court judges, certain number of judges are talking about the decriminalization of defamation. So we will see regarding what are the provision with respect to defamation, and we will also talk about the certain case laws in this particular regard. The next article is regarding the insurgency in Northeast. So the context is that there has been an extension of the ban on the NSCNK, which is the NSCN Khaplang group, right? So that has been extended now. And in that particular context, we will discuss the issue of the insurgency in the northeastern region, right? Next is regarding the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana scheme. So there has been an appraisal regarding this particular scheme, and now the number of targeted beneficiary has exceeded more than 10 crore that are going to get benefited from this particular scheme. So this is the tentative data from the side of government. We'll see what this particular scheme is and the details regarding this. The next important article is regarding the polluted river stretch decline. So there has been a report from the side of CPCB that there has been some decline in the number of polluted river stretch across the India. They are doing this particular reporting, right? So we will see regarding this also. The last article is the 3 West African countries quit ICC, which is not obviously the International Cricket Council, but it is the International Criminal Court, right? Next is, in the quick updates, we will see the places in news, where the today's place in news is Morocco. Then we will see certain other important articles, but in brief, right? So let's start the discussion of the today's news today. The first article is the time to decriminalize the defamation mentioned by Supreme Court. Now, from the perspective of the UPSC examination, how this particular topic is important, because General Studies paper 2 talks about the polity, constitution and the governance related things, and in that polity, constitution and governance related aspects, there is a topic regarding the Indian Constitution, where we read regarding the fundamental rights of the Indian Constitution, and in the fundamental rights, right to freedom is also mentioned. In the right to freedom, Article 19 talks about the freedom of speech and expression, but there are certain exceptions that are there, which are mentioned in the Constitution itself. So one such exception is talking about the defamation. So we will talk about this, and that can be an important thing because of which UPSC can ask the question regarding this, right? Then the role of Supreme Court in the interpretation of the rights, which includes the fundamental rights also, and apart from that, balancing the free speech versus reputation. Because there were multiple cases previously also, where on the one side there was question regarding the freedom of speech and expression, on the other side on which that particular freedom has been exercised, there has been some cases regarding the defamation. So that we will talk about. Now tell me, what is the defamation? So I'm expecting you that you should also be aware regarding this particular term, or you should be having some kind of idea, thoda pata hona chahiye, that what is defamation. So basically, it is the act of communicating the false information. See, there are certain terms which comparatively appear similar only. For example, hate speech. For example, defamation. But there is a stark difference between these particular terms in their meaning also, and in their intent also, the kind of things that they want to communicate. When you are talking about hate speech, it may be against a community, it may be against a religion, it may be against even an entire region in order to propagate the violence. That is the hate speech. But when it comes to the defamation, basically defamation talks about communicating the false information. When we are talking about false information, that means you are just spreading the lies about that particular person, that particular group, that particular authority. Now, the communication can be in any manner. The communication can be done through the written means, for example, publishing the information in newspaper, or publishing any specific paper regarding that thing, showing some cartoons, showing some effigies, right? And even through certain spoken words. where you want to communicate something but shrewdly or otherwise you are communicating. होता है ना, sometimes we are seeing there are certain discussions where you are talking about something indirectly, but that is speaking to that particular person, that is regarding that particular individual regarding whom you are talking about. So in both way, whether it is spoken, whether it is written, that or published, that harms the reputation of a person, group, or the immediate relative of a person. So in any manner, it is amount to the defamation. Now when you are defaming, that means the presumption is that that particular information is false. If that is not false, obviously that is not the defamation related things. Only defamation will be counted if that information which is spreaded against you is the lie or the false information or the misinformation. Clear है? Now the defamation को अगर हम divide करें, so that can be divided into two categories based upon how you are communicating regarding that particular defamation. Whether you are communicating through the written words or something which is having the concrete evidences. For example, you are writing maybe in the articles, you are publishing some paper regarding that, you are basically putting certain kind of cartoons or effigies or maybe anything which is directly impacting upon the reputation. So in that case, it is known as libel, right? So libel is comparatively permanent form, because once that particular proof is shown, that shows that yes, you have said this particular thing, you are responsible for this specific thing that you have communicated. But then there is also another thing which is slander, where it is temporary and non-permanent. That means you have communicated something but in the form of words, maybe in the form of certain loose words, that you might later on retract also ki I did not wanted to convey this thing. That means yes, you have defamed that particular individual, but maybe a chance that that particular words that were taken in that particular manner, and that is not intending that specific thing, right? So that slander is temporary and non-permanent. This is the differentiation in the mode you are communicating or spreading the lie about that particular person. It can be libel, which is in the permanent form like the written words, images, cartoon, effigies or published work, or slander where the temporary or non-permanent form which is in the form of spoken words, gestures or signs. Clear hai? So I hope this difference between this horizontal division regarding the defamation, where the mode of communication can divide it into libel and the slander. Now, when we are talking about the constitution, and there are certain provisions that are mentioned regarding the freedom of speech and expression, and the exceptions are also provided in that specific article only. Regarding that, there have been certain provisions also that are mentioned that were previously mentioned in IPC, and now the IPC has been replaced by the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. So that Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita also includes the provision regarding the defamation. So defamation is both a criminal offense also, or it can be a civil offense also, depending upon the way you are communicating, depending upon the gravity of the situation. Obviously, in the civil offense, you might be asking for certain kind of compensation. That can be the monetary compensation. But in the criminal defamation case, there can be even the arrest, which can be as a consequence of that, right? Now the defamation can be criminal or the civil also. Now section 356 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita provides the defamation related provision which was previously provided under section 499 of IPC. So at any point of time, if in certain cases you have to mention some provision regarding the defamation, you can mention regarding the section 356 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. Now the question here emerges that why we need to decriminalize the defamation. Now see, we know that why it has been criminalized, because in the multiple interpretation, whether it is by different law commission reports or by those who have mentioned that particular criminal offense wala provision in IPC, and also by the Supreme Court's multiple interpretation, that reputation is also part of the right to life of an individual, which comes under Article 21. So that has to be maintained, and the freedom of speech and expression, which is part of the Article 19 of the Constitution, that also is a fundamental right available. So we have to balance between both, and in the balance of them, it has been mentioned by Supreme Court multiple times that your freedom of speech and expression cannot curtail others' right to life. That means the right to reputation, right? So that's why there have been certain checks that were put. And still now, Supreme Court in their interpretation had upheld the criminalization with respect to the defamation. But then now Supreme Court is reconsidering regarding the decriminalization of the defamation. Why they are saying this? First point regarding this is violates the freedom of speech and expression. Now see, if there is a constant sword that is hanging on your neck, that if you will speak against me, then there will be a case that will be filed against you that you have violated my right to reputation. In that case, will any person freely be able to utilize the freedom of speech and expression? The answer is no. So in that particular case, this is violating the freedom of speech and expression. That means the other person will always be in the constant worry that if there may be something out of the speech that has been taken out of the context and maybe a case that can be filed against me. And maybe the one party against whom you might have said something and that party alleges you and that party is more powerful, that will bring you to the courts, right? And that is violating your freedom of speech and expression. The next important thing is silencing the dissent. Now, whenever you are saying something which may be comparatively not completely correct, but not completely wrong also. But then in that case, if you are trying to put pressure on the authorities, but then there is a constant sword again, and in that case, you will think maybe some kind of manipulation may be there, right? So even if not the other opposition parties, or maybe there is a chance like, let's say a private individual who thinks that yes, there should be certain voice against any specific authority, and here the private individual or maybe any other person that want to say something, in that cases there may be an impact that can be created, and then the dissent can be silenced. Right. The lastly, threat to the freedom of press also, because now sometimes what happens that whenever the authorities are going in an authoritarian manner, in that cases the freedom of press can also be curtailed, because there can be censorship, said or unsaid, can be imposed upon those particular publications. If you are not publishing as per my will, then in that particular case you can also be facing the issues regarding the defamation, right? In that case, it is also a threat to the freedom of speech and expression, along with the freedom of press, which is deriving its power from the Article 19 only. Now, what were the recommendation in this particular regard? Now, when we are talking about that decriminalize the defamation, yes, to some extent we can say that decriminalizing the defamation may reduce the cases which are increasing because of the political allegation. Because generally hota kya hai, when one political party is alleging against another political party, many a time a lot of things that were said is not properly correct. But then that things lead to the issues like defamation, and that increases the case burden on the judiciary from the lowest court to the highest courts, right? And in that particular cases, there have been certain recommendations that were provided in order to go, right? Now, the Law Commission report, which was 285th report regarding the Law Commission that talked about the reputation, is an important facet, because this was the debate that in 2023, when the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita incorporated the provisions regarding the criminalization of defamation, then this particular Law Commission report talked about ki bhai dekho, reputation is also an important aspect in the right to life. That's why the criminalization is needed to some extent. Yes, it is okay, but the misuse has to be prevented. The next is, there was a case regarding Subramaniam Swamy versus Union of India case of 2016, and in that particular case, again Supreme Court reiterated its previous stand that yes, the criminal defamation is a legal thing, it is a valid thing. That means you can see whether it is the Law Commission report or whether it is the Subramaniam Swamy versus Union of India case, in both the ways it was upheld that the criminalization of defamation is okay. This is the present stand. Even apart from that, the state of Gujarat versus Honorable High Court of the Gujarat 1998 case also talked about, and this particular case was regarding the prisons inmates, right? And in that particular case, it's mentioned that the reputation is very important, honor which is lost or the life which has snuffed out cannot be recompensated. Matlab you can't give that particular thing again. Just assume a scenario, one personality might be a prominent personality of that particular region, contributing a lot to the society, and there is certain kind of political nexus that is created against that particular individual. Ab us case mein kya hoga? You have just defamed that individual, and now the high chances are there that public sentiment might be going against that, though the person have not committed anything which is a sin or which is illegal thing, right? But still the defamation ke through that thing has been created and that reputation is lost, and that particular reputation now cannot be recompensated. This was the observation in the state of Gujarat versus Honorable High Court of the Gujarat case. Now, how UPSC had asked the question regarding this: what do you understand by the concept of the freedom of speech and expression? Does it cover the hate speech? So the question was asked regarding the hate speech. Now, similar manner mein, there can be even question regarding the defamation also. So be prepared with these things. Have an idea regarding the definition. Have an idea regarding its interlinkages with different constitutional articles. Why do the films in India stand on a slightly different plane from the other forms of the expression discussed? So this was a good question which was formed regarding the hate speech. So whenever in society any discussions are going on those particular discussion, UPSC can also ask the question which is catering the society also, which is catering certain important pointers of the syllabus. Next article is regarding the government extend the ban imposed on the National Socialist Council of the Nagaland, NSCNK, which is the Khaplang group, for 5 more years. That means there were already certain ban or that particular sanctions that were imposed because of its allegedly anti-India or the anti-India activities or basically anti-establishment activities, right? So that's why that ban has been extended for 5 more years now. Now, from the UPSC examination perspective, in general studies 3 paper, internal security is an important topic, where the topics like the linkage between the development and the spread of the extremism. So whenever there is a development going on, generally there are certain groups that think that their dominance can be curtailed if there is a better administration, because people will not listen in that cases, and that's why they resort to the extremist activities, and insurgency is one such extremist activities. Then the role of external state and the non-state actor, because here in this particular case, the role of the non-state actors, like for example Myanmar, the state actors like Myanmar, and also the non-state actors, like there are multiple other groups. For example, ULFA is there, right? So different other insurgent groups that are there. In that case, they are also involved. That's why the external state and non-state actor both are there. Now, what has been done recently, that this ban has been extended under the law which is the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UAPA 1967. Where there can be any specific group that can be designated, and in that particular case the ban can be imposed on that. Now that ban is leading to any affiliate group, any kind of publication, any such association of that particular group as illegal, and then maybe their financial networks, maybe their political networks, all of them will be curtailed, right? So that will be the impact of the ban. Now, why there has been a lot of issues that you are hearing regarding the northeastern part of the country? Always this region is in news. After independence, there were multiple issues because of the unclear status, because many such states were there which were demanding secession from India. Many such places were there where they wanted more and more regional autonomy. Many such places were there where the insurgency was propagated by the state actors like China, like Myanmar. So in all these particular cases, there have been rise of the insurgency. Now, what are the insurgency ke main causes? We can divide it like the political alienation, ethnic, developmental deficit, and the geopolitical and the geographical factors. Now, first is regarding the political alienation. What do you mean by political alienation? Means, suppose karo if there is any specific region that is not getting their due representation as far as the country is concerned, or as far as the federal structure is concerned. In that particular cases, don't you think so the people of that place will feel alienated? Logo ko lagega ki we are not getting our representation. Our voice is not heard at the the ground level of the country, because whatever we are saying, they are not taking into consideration and they are not making policies. For example, in the case of Mizoram, what had happened, that during 1950s, there was severe famine in that particular region. But then there were certain issues that were there at the central government's level, and that led to the comparative relation between the government of Mizoram as well as the people of Mizoram are concerned. Now, us case mein kya hua? There have been a rise of the distance between the factions which were there, and that later on led to the insurgency in that particular region, right? So, lack of political representation and perceived neglect, these are the major political reasons because of which there may be alienation that can be there in any specific region. Now, it's not necessarily that always northeastern states, but because of their comparative geographical isolation, this is more aggrieved over there. Next is the ethnic and the cultural aspiration. So see, the composition of the northeastern state is in such a way that these are mainly forested regions. So there are specific tribal groups that are residing. For example, Maitis are there are Kukis, there are Nagas, there are many other tribal communities that are there. Now these tribal communities are based upon their own identity. They want their autonomy, they want their local governance system that should be respected. Now in that case, if you go with the top-down approach, if you are not taking into consideration their local rights in that particular case, don't you think so that their ethnic rights or the cultural rights are getting suppressed, and then there is alienation and resulting into the insurgency. The next is the developmental deficit. Now this has direct relation with the geography of that particular region and the connectivity with the rest of India. So the northeastern part of country is connected to the mainland India or the rest of India with the Chicken Snack corridor or the Siliguri corridor. Now because of this, what had happened, that whether it is railways, whether it is a lot of other developmental projects that were delayed in that particular region, and that were one such reason or the prominent reasons we can say that led to the lack of development, and that lead to the insurgency. So lack of economic opportunity. Now when lack of economic opportunity is there, whether industrial development is slower or whether any other kind of development is slower. Now this is directly going to impact on the employment, because people are not getting the employment. When the youth will remain unemployed, then the youth will go for many such unlawful activities also. Unemployment is directly going to reflect in the a lot of unlawful activities in that particular region. So whether it is lack of economic opportunity, lack of infrastructure in that region, and the unemployment rate which is very high in those regions, that is creating also difficulty. Next is the geopolitical factor, which is also having the geographical aspects, right? So there are multiple state actors that are surrounding this particular region. For example, on the northern side it is China, on the eastern side it is Myanmar, then southern side it is Bangladesh which is sitting, right? There is Nepal also, there is Bhutan also which is connected, and apart from that, this particular region is a hotbed for the drug trafficking. This is a hotbed for a lot of other criminal activities like the gun running, then the weapon trade which is illegal in nature, human trafficking, cattle trafficking. All these things lead to the issues in that region. Apart from that, one such major issue is lack of proper boundary demarcation. वो भी proper नहीं हुआ है. That's why these are the issues. Now we have seen that these are the prominent issues regarding the insurgency in the northeastern region. When we are talking about the insurgency, obviously government might have taken certain steps in order to curb this insurgency through both the approaches, by utilizing force whenever needed and also by reconciling the major demands of that particular region. Right? So in that case, the one thing which is very prominent is the peace dialogue, because there were many such tribal communities which wanted to live in India, which wanted to cooperate with the mainland or the central government, but then at that point of time they also wanted that their demand should be heard. In that cases, there were certain peace accords. For example, Mizo Peace Accord was there, finally signed in 1986, and later on 1987 May, Mizoram became a full-fledged state also. So Mizo Peace Accord that was there, even the Bodo Peace Accord that was there very recently regarding the communities of Bodo and that demanded comparatively more autonomy in the form of their own council, which will be having the legislative rights also, executive and the judicial rights also to some extent, right, for the local affairs. So these are the things through which you can reconcile these community. Next is regarding the interstate boundary dispute. Dekho, at the international level, it falls under the purview of the parliament because there is a need for constitutional amendment act. You might have heard of the case of the Berubari Union. So whenever you have to secede the territory to any other country, or whenever you have to settle the international border, at that point of time, there is a need for the constitutional amendment. But when the state, which is, we are talking about the nation state, when there is some internal adjustment of the border, that can be done by even the simple majority under interpretation of the Article 3 of the Constitution. In that case, there have been interstate boundary agreements that were done. For example, Assam and Arunachal ka boundary dispute tha regarding certain territories, that was resolved, and now the work in progress is there. Apart from that, Assam and Meghalaya. So many such northeastern states carved out from the greater Assam region, and that's why there is certain issues that is pertaining with respect to the boundary agreement. And if that is further extended, the issues are extended, that lead to the situations like insurgency. Next is the constitutional provision. Now see, the constitution also has to recognize that these people are comparatively lacking in the development, and there should be some specific focus that should be done on these people. That's why there were constitutional provision that were also ensured. So 5th and the 6th schedule provision, 5th is regarding the scheduled tribes related things, and then the specifically for the northeastern states, there is 6th schedule provision that were ensured. So these were the provisions that were there, and even apart from that, Article 371 of the Indian Constitution that also incorporated multiple provisions regarding different northeastern states. Next is regarding the development initiative, because lack of infrastructure is also one such issue. When there will be infrastructural development, and you might have seen already that recently there have been the first ever railway line that connected Mizoram directly. Like Aizawl, which is the capital city of the Mizoram, is now directly connected with the Assam and the other region through the railways. So that has been done. So there are developmental activities going on, and this will connect the people of that region with the rest of India, right? So the schemes like the PM Divine, which is the development initiative for the northeastern region, and apart from that, Ministry of the Development of Northeastern region. So there have been specific funding that is being provided to them. So a lot of activities has to be done in order to ensure the confidence of the region. Lastly is that there should be certain things that should be further done, like the combining the sustained dialogue, because there are many such tribal communities which are still having certain resentment. So there should be continuous dialogue, listen to their demand, and what all can be accommodated, that should be accommodated, right? Then accelerated development, there should not be any kind of gap between what you have committed and what you are delivering. So there should be this particular gap that should be filled very quickly. The stronger border management and the community participation. Now, see, vibrant village program, previously there was border area development program. So these programs are specifically created for the border region. These programs should provide impetus, and there should be a quick disposal of the funds. There should be quick delivery of whatever schemes that you are providing in these regions, because these people, once they will get better employment opportunity, better infrastructure, they will be not assimilated, but they will be integrated holistically with this particular region, right? So these are the things that can be done further. Now talking about the previous year question, now you can see these are certain questions in some previous years. Like this year UPSC had asked the question regarding what are the major challenges to internal security and the peace process in the northeastern state, and map the various peace accords and the agreement initiated by the government in the past decade. So the question is asking major challenges that can be talked about, whatever we have discussed in the first part, and then next is regarding various peace accords and the agreement. So 2 we have discussed, there are multiple others that were there that can also be talked about. There are Naga accords also that were there. So there is another group like NSCN, IM, Isaac Muiwa that is doing the discussion with government in order to come at a normal ground, right? Then cross-border movement of insurgent is one of the several issues that is faced in the northeastern region. So the challenges currently emanating from the India-Myanmar border, right? There have been questions regarding the northeast region of India has been infested with insurgency for a very long time. Analyze the major reasons for the survival of the armed insurgency. So there is also state actor, there are also a lot of non-state actors. Both aspects should be covered in your answer. The next article is regarding the government scheme, which is the Ujjwala Yojana. So government approves 25 lakh additional LPG connection under PM Ujjwala Yojana, PMUY. Now, whenever there is any specific scheme which is for the welfare of the people, that directly becomes the part of the GS paper 2, which is the governance and the welfare scheme for the social justice, welfare scheme for the vulnerable section, issues related to the poverty, hunger, because if the LPG connection is not there, there will be deterioration of health. That particular health will make the families vulnerable and then put the families into poverty and hunger trap. Then government policies and the intervention for the development of various sectors. GS paper 3 also, because if there is comparatively better demographic dividend of the country, in that particular cases the economy, energy, environment is also going to get protected, right? And if there have been reduction of the fossil fuel burning and this particular things which are comparatively not that much polluting to the environment, in that cases there can be a better demographic dividend that can be achieved holistically. Now, talking about the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana scheme, what was the objective of this scheme? So the government has recognized that one such issue specifically in the rural region is lack of availability of the clean cooking fuel. Generally what people were utilizing the the woods which were utilized for the chula chimney. You might have seen already, right, in the village region. So basically hota kya tha, in that cases there were a harmful smoke that was coming out of those particular chulhas, and that particular smoke was mainly impacting the women, because women were given this particular task of nurturing the family and they were getting negatively impacted as far as their health is concerned. And in this case, government has recognized this particular issue and they launched a scheme in 2016 regarding providing the 8 crore deposit free LPG connection to the rural poor, right? So 8 crore deposit free LPG connection. That means you need not to pay a deposit. Government will give you subsidy regarding the connection. Now, this was the phase 1 of Ujjwala Yojana, which was talking about that in order to get the connection, you need not to pay. So connection milega aapko, right? But what about refilling? Matlab, suppose karo if you got 1 cylinder, right? Now you have to refill, you have to take the hot plate which is like the chulha over that, right? In that case, you had to pay the money. Now, government observed that when we were giving subsidy only for the connection and not for the refilling and the hot plate, the people were only utilizing it once or they were not utilizing it at all. So that is defeating the purpose. That's why when government came up with the 2.0 of the Ujjwala Yojana, then they had made the provision in order to provide even for one refilling and also the hot plate that is also provided free of cost. So previously, whatever was done through the loan, like people had to take the loan and they can give it in the small installment, but now the government has made it free. This is the responsibility of government in order to provide even one refilling, and then the subsidy is being also provided to you in the subsequent months when you are taking the new cylinder or refilling the cylinder, right? So there is some amount of subsidy that is being provided to you in order to encourage the clean resource consumption. Right? So this is in order to change the habit. Now, this particular scheme is providing the connections, and these connections are about to rise to 10.58 crore. That means it is one of the most important scheme as far as the rural poor are concerned, and specifically in that also the most important section that is going to get benefited is the women, because regarding the household works and even the cooking is generally considered to be done by them, right? So in that case, this is there. Now the concerned ministry, in any specific scheme, there should be a need for concerned ministry which you should be aware of. So the Ministry of Petroleum and the Natural Gas is the concerned ministry, which is the implementing agency also. Now the type of scheme is also sometime important, because the way it will be provided to the states, matlab how the fund is going to be provided, whether it is funded by the central government, whether it is a kind of sharing scheme between the central and the state, means a portion is provided by center and a portion is being provided by the state. So like this is a central sector scheme. That means the central government is providing the amount which is needed for this. Now the Ujjwala 2.0. which has been launched in 2021, which has further increased the number of connections. So previously it was to 8 crore, then the number of connection further increased 1.6 crore, so it became 9.6, and then gradually there were certain more connections that were added. So total it will become 10.58 crore. Now what was done in 2.0 scheme? It was to specially cater certain other sections like the special facility to the migrant household, because sometime what happens that the people who are traveling from one place to another place are not getting the benefit. That's why in order to take care of them, this particular 2.0 mein there has been provision. Now additional 75 lakh connections were approved in 23-24. Like this, there were increase in the numbers, and this number will become this. Now, implementation, who is going to be the implementing authority? So, ministry is the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. Now, there is collaboration with the oil marketing companies. For example, you see that there is HPCL, Hindustan Petroleum, you might have seen the cylinders. Then there is BPCL, so Bharat Gas. Then IOCL, Indian, right? So these are the firms which are supporting along with the state government. There is a collaboration of these in order to implement this particular scheme. Now what is the eligibility? So eligibility is including the adult women of that particular house. That means the women should be there, and that adult women should be, that means obviously 18 year plus women should be there, and from the BPL families not having the prior existing LPG cylinder. If you have already the LPG cylinder, then in that particular case obviously it is not for you. But then if you are not having the LPG connection, and if you are fulfilling at least one of these criteria, for example, you are identified in the form of the socio-economic caste census list, or the SC/ST household, or the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin beneficiary, or Antyodaya Anna Yojana, or the most backward class of that particular region, or the forest dwellers, or the resident of the island or the river islands, or the tea gardens or the ex-tea gardens tribe, or lastly the other poor families designated. So in any of these, if you are fulfilling the criteria, and if there is a adult women that is there in that particular house, in that name only the connection will be provided. Clear? So this is the criteria. Now what are the benefits? Now as I have already told, the benefit includes for the connection you are going to get the subsidy. So 1600 rupees for a connection of 14.2 kg cylinder, and 1150 rupees subsidy for 5 kg cylinder that is going to be provided. So this is the connection level. Per connection mein all the other accessories that is needed for connection, like the regulator is there, that pipe is there, right? So all these things will be provided. Apart from that, now government in the 2.0 scheme, free first LPG refill and the stove, it is also going to be provided. Previously when it was not provided, people were not getting it refilled, right? And even were not utilizing the benefit of this particular scheme, right? Now for the first time the government is providing, and for the subsequent time period of the year, government is providing 300 rupees per cylinder for up to 12 refills per annum. This is the criteria that they have made. Now there are obviously certain exclusions. So what are these exclusions? Household with existing LPG connection, already discussed, and no adult female member. If there is no adult female member that is there in the house, then you are not eligible for this particular scheme. So UPSC generally tricks with these particular things, that they ask sometime the eligibility criteria or the exclusion criteria. You should be having a clear idea regarding what people are not eligible for this scheme. Clear? Next important article is regarding the number of polluted river stretch PRS decline. It is the data by the Central Pollution Control Board. Now when this is talking about the polluted rivers or the river related pollution, broadly it is the part of the pollution which is the environmental issue, right? And in that particular case, it is the part of the general studies paper 3, environment, the conservation of the environment, pollution and the disaster management. Because sometime what happens, and recently we had seen also in the northern part of the country, where we have seen a lot of disasters because of lack of following the river management related laws. There have been construction in the region which were prohibited from doing any specific construction, like the river floodplain. And what it results? It results into massive havoc. It results into a lot of issues, right? That's why from the UPSC exam perspective, this is an important observation or important article. Now what was the CPCB assessment? Now before going for the CPCB assessment, what this particular organization is. What is the Central Pollution Control Board, right? So there was a act which was known as the Water Prevention and Control Act of 1974 that gave rise to a statutory body which is the Central Pollution Control Board, and at the state level there have been the State Pollution Control Boards that were established. So which act established the CPCB and the SPCBs? It is the Water Act. But if the question asks that which other act which are part of this, like from where the CPCB is deriving its power, CPCB is also deriving its power from the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act which was enacted later on, right? So Air Act के अंदर भी चीजें जो होती हैं, that is also part of the work of CPCB. Now which particular ministry is the concerned ministry? So the ministry is the Ministry of Environment, Forest and the Climate Change. Now see, what we are discussing about is regarding the river pollution. When we are talking about the river pollution, how you are going to assess that whether the river is healthy or whether the river is polluted. When the river is healthy or polluted, that particular thing is decided by the conditions like the biological oxygen demand. What is this biological oxygen demand? So BOD, or the biological oxygen demand, is basically the oxygen needed in order to disintegrate or dissolve that particular organic matter that are pertaining or that are available in the water. So suppose karo, there are bacteria, there are microorganisms which disintegrate or which breaks down the complex organic material which is available in the water. They are disintegrating them. Once they are disintegrating them, they will be utilizing the oxygen in order to disintegrate them. Jitna zyada kachra, jitna zyada pollution, that amount of oxygen is needed. That means if the biological oxygen demand is high, BOD is high, that means in that case more is the pollution. If the BOD is less, less is the pollution. Like this, the relation can be asked by UPSC. Now, this particular survey that the CPCB is doing, that is a survey which is taking place in the 2 years, once in a 2 year, right? So last survey was there in, that was before 2022. Now whatever data they are providing, that is after 2023. So 2 years ke time period ke baad, they are doing this particular survey. Now, what is the criteria for this particular survey that they have put? Like, they have divided regarding the polluted river stretch, PRS, there are certain criteria. They have divided this into 5 classes. The biological oxygen demand level, if it is exceeding 3 milligram per liter, in that case, it is considered as the polluted. So we are going as low as 3 milligram per liter. If it is below that, that is non-polluted. If it is biological oxygen demand is more than this milligram, 3 milligram per liter, in that case it is polluted. This is the primary water quality standard for this. Now the categorize under the 5 priority classes. Priority 1 is the most or the highly polluted river stretch or the river point. In that case, it is more than 30 milligram per liter. That means the BOD is more than 30 mg per liter. And then there is 2, 3, 4, 5. But we need not to go into the detail of all. The priority level 5, which is the lowest level of the pollution, which is 3 to 6 milligram per liter. That means it is from 3 to 30, and beyond 30 is the most polluted one, or the priority region 1, or the priority area 1. Now what is the key finding of this? So the CPCB ka report has assessed that there has been marginal decline in the number of polluted stretches. There has not been much decline. There is a marginal decline. So what they had said, ki after 2023, 296 polluted river stretches that were there across 271 rivers. So this is the river stretches. We are talking about a region in that particular river along 271 rivers compared to 311 PRS across 279 rivers. That means if we compare with 2022, there has been slight reduction in the polluted patches. How we have calculated that? Again, remember this 3 milligram K, if that is above that, that is considered as a polluted patch. When we are talking about the maximum number of polluted patch in a river, it is in the Maharashtra, which is the maximum number, followed by the Kerala. Maharashtra mein kitna hai? 54. Kerala mein it is 31. We are talking about the polluted, which includes 1 to 5, all the categories. But when we are talking about priority 1 stretch, which is the highest, which is more than 30 milligram per liter. In that case, the stretch reduces to 37 from 45. So most polluted one wala 45 the, now that has reduced to 37. When we talk about the priority one, it is maximum in the Tamil Nadu, then in Uttar Pradesh, then Uttarakhand. So basically, highest is in Maharashtra regarding the entire pollution wale categories ko mila ke, but when we talk about the highest pollution category mein, it is in the Tamil Nadu, which is the highest one, then followed by Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Now see, exactly fact as it is pucha jaye, maybe UPSC can ask, but more importantly, this can be quoted as certain fact, quoting the CPCB data, that will be adding a lot of value in your answer. So that's why you can write down something regarding the pollution, GS3, environment, pollution, environmental pollution, usme river pollution mein CPCB report and this. That gives an idea regarding how you can quote this particular fact and data. Otherwise, it is practically impossible to retain all this data, right? Now, what have been the initiatives regarding reduction of the river pollutions in India? So there are certain statutory provisions that were ensured in order to deal with the issues of the river pollution. So there was Water Act 1974, there is Environmental Protection Act. Now see, in broader environment mein, rivers are also part of it, right? When you do the environmental impact assessment, the rivers also have to taken into consideration. So what are all supplementary aspects that are remaining with respect to the Water Act that are being fulfilled by the Environmental Protection Act of 1986. So these are the statutory provision talking about the dealing with the issues related to the environmental pollution, because the CPCB is part of this particular act. Next is there are certain flagship schemes or the flagship mission of the government. Like on the mission mode, they are integrating multiple ministries. They are talking about like integrating a lot of resources in order to deal with the river pollution related issues. So for example, National Mission for Clean Ganga, aapne suna hoga, Namami Ganga Mission, right? So these particular things were to ensure the aesthetic of the religion, of the river, to ensure the religious values of that particular river, to ensure the tourism. So that means the entire thing that is regarding the river ecosystem, from the spirituality to the utilization to the continuous flow of that particular river, so that river can rejuvenate itself. So there is National Mission for Clean Ganga, and that specific जो achievements हैं, in order to replicate for other rivers, the National River Conservation Plan that is ensured. So whatever we have learned from here, from the experiences of the National Mission from Clean Ganga, we are going to implement those in the National River Conservation Plan also. Then the community participation measures, for example, the initiative like Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which is going to ensure comparatively holistic approach. Lastly, and this is also going to sensitize community regarding the issues of the pollution. Lastly, establishment of the sewage treatment plant and also the common effluent treatment plant. So sewage treatment plant means sometimes the sewages combinedly going into the river without even getting treated. So that is going to add a lot of E. coli and many other bacteria which are harmful for the human being, and that increases the biological oxygen demand and ultimately causes the pollution. So regarding the sewage, regarding that there is sewage treatment plant that are there, common effluent treatment plant, for example industrial waste, a lot of other waste which is going into the rivers, in order to move that into river, before that there should be treatment facility which will prevent that. So identifying the hotspot and working upon that is the solution. So these are the things or the initiative which are there regarding reduction of the river pollution in India. Last article in the major discussion is regarding the Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger recently withdrew from the International Criminal Court. Now the International Criminal Court is an important organization. It is a permanent international criminal court that was established through the Rome Statute, and this is important because in the international relation you read regarding the important international institutions. When you read regarding the important international institutions, there that particular topic is important. Then their agencies, fora, their structure and the mandate. That's why ICC is important. UPSC can ask the question regarding this. What is ICC or the International Criminal Court? So basically, dekho, this is a criminal court of the permanent nature which was formed through the Rome Statute. Now Rome Statute was initiated or adopted in 1998 and ultimately came into force from 2002. Now this led to the establishment of the world's first permanent international criminal court. That means before this there must be certain non-permanent international criminal courts? Yes, there were a lot of tribunals that were formed. For example, after World War II, Allied power formed a tribunal regarding the treating of those particular individuals who were responsible for the genocide or the crime against humanity. After that, there were a lot of issues that were going on at different parts of the country, whether it is Yugoslavia, whether it is Africa, there were certain tribunals that were created. But after 1998, this was the first permanent court that was created through the Rome Statute. Now, talking about the headquarter, where it is situated in the Hague, Netherlands. Right. So these are the two factual things regarding this. Now, what the countries which are going to exit this particular international criminal court are saying, that this is a tool of neo-colonial repression controlled by the imperialist power. There are two terms, neo-colonial repression, that means though formal colonialism is not existing, abhi colonialism nahi hai, but in some way that colonialism is available in the form of colonialism 2.0. How? Economic power are being controlled by the major economies. For example, they are imposing sanction. They say ki bhai, in the international criminal court, I'll give you one example. Recently, United States said that if, because United States is not a member of the international criminal court, so they said ki any individual who will support the or provide help to the investigations going on against the United States citizen or United States के allies के citizen के साथ, in that cases, what we are going to do, we are going to punish that individual by not allowing them to enter into United States. That means visa नहीं provide करेंगे. We can attach their financial assets. So a developed country is attacking on other countries that we are not going to cooperate with ICC. If you will cooperate with ICC, in that case, you will face the consequences. Right? That means it is being utilized as a tool of neo-colonial repression, and then the imperialist power, when the power is trying to utilize these kind of tools, and when they are seeing themselves as the imperialist 2.0, that means not the formal empire of this scale, but yes, to some extent, economic dependence, military dependence, political dependence, in all these sense mein, they are the imperialist power 2.0, like the countries like United States, or we can say the countries like China, which are putting a lot of influence. Now, what is the mandate of the International Criminal Court? So it is to investigate, prosecute and try the individual, not the groups, not the countries, but the individuals who are accused of certain serious crimes against humanity. So genocide, crime against humanity, war crimes, or the crime of aggression. Now see, these are comparatively provided in the loose terms. Now see, after 9/11, US invaded multiple countries. Will that fall in one of these categories? Crime of aggression hai, war crime hai, crime against humanity hai, because there was a lot genocide that was happening. So basically these particular tribunal, when the major countries which are the global countries or which are doing the or ensuring the global order, when they are not part of it, these becomes dysfunctional. Because problem kya hai, despite having 125 members, there are major countries which are not part of it. India is not part, Israel is not part, US is not part, Russia is not part, China is not part. So agar itne major countries agar member nahi hai, do you think there will be utility of this organization? Comparatively, no. There have been recent joinees in the form of Malaysia in 2019 and the Ukraine in 2025. But then, agar suppose karo, if there have been sanctions that were put against President of Russia, in that case, generally, when these countries are not member, there is no such kind of action that is going to take place. So similarly, let's say when the France ko bola gaya ki you are a member country and you should do justice with the Israeli Prime Minister, they denied it. उन्होंने बोला कि नहीं, there are some privileges available to that particular office, right? So that's why they have not implemented this. So this becomes dysfunctional. Generally, it is funded by state parties and the decisions are binding, but then the countries are utilizing the loopholes even if they are the member states and not utilizing or exercising their rights and powers under this particular court's authority. Clear? Now, one such issue with this that we will discuss now is that for the enforcement, why there have not been enforcement? Because International Criminal Court does not have its police. So for that they have to be dependent on the country in order to provide the policing related support, and that's why this is one such issue for the enforcement limitation. Okay, they expect that the state country which is the member of this International Criminal Court that should implement this. Next is perceived biases, because we have seen that these particular organizations are not incorporating the member who are part of the Western countries, and they are not tagging them as the person who has committed the serious crimes like the genocide or crime against humanity. But then the African nation, if there is any military leader that emerges, they say that these are the responsible person for the crime against humanity or war crime like this. Then the lack of universal jurisdiction, majority of the country which are the important major player and not part of this. That's why the lack of universal jurisdiction. Political resistance. So both the example I have already given you. France refused to enforce ICC warrant against the Israeli Prime Minister. US executive order for the sanction against those individuals who are going to support in the investigation of the ICC. So basically they are just not doing anything. They are threatening the ICC, and that puts ICC into the question, right? So these are the issues with ICC. Now there is a difference between International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice is the principal UN organ which was established in 1945, and it is basically utilized in order to resolve the disputes like with the state parties in accordance with the international law, legal dispute between the states submitted by the states to it, or giving the advisory opinion on the legal matter to the organizations within the UN framework. So the International Court of Justice is different and the International Criminal Court is different. Clear? Next is the places in news, and in the places in news we have to discuss regarding Morocco with the capital city Rabat, right? So recently the context is that India and Morocco have signed the MOU on the defense cooperation on 22nd September. That's why it was in news. Now when there is any specific country that is in news, some important things regarding that country is important. For example, if you see Morocco, this is the northwestern part of Africa. So here the Morocco is having the border with the Atlantic Ocean also, and it is having one border with the Mediterranean Sea. When we talk about the region or the placement, it is the northwestern part of Africa. Now it is having the border with the or the land border with the countries like Algeria, and here on the southern side it is the Western Sahara. Now regarding some highest point, if there can be a question regarding UPSC, so Mount Toubkal is the region which is the highest point of Morocco. This is the region. Then next is the Dra river is the longest river. I don't think so that these are that important fact, but yes, placement has to be an idea that you should be having with respect to the examination, because generally these are the observation based questions generally UPSC asks. The high Atlas mountain separates the mild coast from the harsh Sahara. So there is presence of the Atlas mountain because यहाँ पर there is Sahara region that is situated, and then here it is the mild coastline because of the Mediterranean Sea ka presence. So it is having the border with both Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea, only country in the Africa. Now there is the Strait of Gibraltar over here, right? So this is regarding Morocco. Next is the quick updates. Let's quickly see these. The first article over here is regarding the La Orquilla Island. So this is simply, as you can see over here, I don't know whether you are able to see, this is the region La Orquilla Island. So you can see this is the South America, this is the Venezuela, and in the north of Venezuela there is this particular island which is the La Orquilla Island. Right now why that is in the news, because Venezuela has begun the military exercise on its Caribbean island, because this is the entire part of the Caribbean group of islands. Island of the La Orquilla as the tension source amid the US military activity in this particular region. So located off the coast of Venezuela in the Caribbean Sea in the Atlantic Ocean that hosts the Venezuelan military base. So it is the territory of Venezuela, right, where the Venezuelan military base is situated. Next is regarding non-deliverable forward market. Now see, for this there has to be a concept that you should be understanding, but before that the context is that the standalone primary dealers have been authorized by RBI to deal with the non-deliverable rupee derivatives in the non-deliverable forward market. Now see, non-deliverable means they are not utilized as a trade instrument. Okay? Simply itna samjho. Next is the standalone primary dealer. Standalone primary dealer means they are not the formal bank, but they are the other authorities. For example, there are NBFCs, non-banking financial institutions, or the corporations, right? So these are the NBFCs which have been granted permission by the RBI in order to deal with this particular government security wala transaction. Now they can do the transaction with respect to these, with respect to the non-deliverable forward market. Now what is the non-deliverable forward market? Because we have seen non-deliverable means they should not be traded on a regular basis. What is this non-deliverable? Just assume by an example. There is a individual in US and then there is a company in India, right? Now that particular individual in US is trading with India, right? And in that particular case, he has to take a payment in the dollar, but that particular dollar corresponds with the rupee, means whatever is the payment of that particular thing which the US company is giving, for that the payment has been done in the form of rupee, and then later on that particular rupee will be exchanged in the form of dollar. Now what may be the scenario in this case, that suppose karo if dollar is strong and the rupee is weak, that means that person is going to get comparatively more amount. But what if the other scenario is there, if the rupee gets strong and the dollar gets weak? Okay, so just to simplify this particular thing, this is in order to hedge against any such major currency fluctuation. If suppose karo, if this particular company thinks कि tomorrow if against dollar that rupee ka value agar weak hoga, then in that case I am going to receive comparatively lesser amount. If rupee weakens, I will be getting more number of rupee for $1, and in that particular case comparatively payment kam aayega. So they ask for the authority in India, and now this standalone primary dealer ki bhai I want the insurance on this. So they both agree on one amount, that yes, what will be the transaction or the exchange rate at that point of time. So they need not to be dependent upon that day's exchange rate. So this is the hedge that is created by this standalone primary dealer or any other authority which has been provided the rights by the RBI in this particular regard. So they are not traded as the instrument, but they are utilized as an insurance. So suppose karo if the rupee weakens, and then in that case whatever payment is coming to US from India, in that cases they are going to give the extra money जो इनका loss हो रहा है, depending upon at what rate they have agreed upon. And if the situation reverses, if they are getting more amount because rupee gets strong, in that case the remaining amount they have to give to the authority depending upon what rate they have agreed upon. So this is simply the concept of the non-deliverable forward market. I know it is complicated, but yes, इतना ही समझना जरूरी है, right? So it is cash settled derivative contract used to hedge on the exchange rate fluctuation of the countries. So this market is typically the offshore market, that is outside the country market, free from the regulatory control of the currency's home monetary authority, because it is going to be settled in cash. It is not going to be traded and all, right? So these are settled in the cash. So this is regarding the non-deliverable forward market. Next is regarding Mantri 2.0 cross incubation program. So Indian Council for the Agricultural Research inaugurated the second edition of India-Brazil cross incubation program Agritech, which is Mantri 2.0. So it is nothing but simply an exchange program where both the countries are sharing their knowledge, their expertise, their ideas regarding the startup related things, incubation, innovation support and all. So it is joint initiative built up upon the Mantri 1.0, which is launched by ICAR to foster the cooperation between those two countries, India and Brazil, for the startups and the innovators to strengthen the resilient food system, because ICAR का initiative है to ensure resilient food system, focusing on the sustainable agriculture, digital technologies and value chain development. Both the countries, based upon their strength, will share the information, will cooperate on the startups for innovation, incubation, and that will support each other ultimately to achieve the objective of resilient food system. Platform for the co-incubation and the cross-border startup exchange, right? Next is regarding the production gap report. So production gap report 2025 has been released. Now which are the organization? It is not a UN report. It was released by the Stockholm Environment Institute, Climate Analytics and the International Institute for Sustainable Development. Now simply what this report have talked about. Report said ki bhai there has been a massive overproduction of the fossil fuel based energy resources. For example, whether it is oil, natural gas or the coal, these are getting explored comparatively in a higher amount. Dekho, we have settled in the Paris Climate Agreement of 2015 that we have to prevent reaching the global temperature by 1.5 degrees Celsius. Preferably we will try and 2 degrees Celsius se kam hona chahiye that increment, right? Now the level with which we have with which we have gone for the production this year, that has led to, agar hum compare kare 1.5 degrees se, so this was more than 120% exceeded. We have exceeded the production. If we compare with the 2 degrees Celsius wala level, still we have exceeded by 77%. Matlab this much amount we have produced more. When we talk about the coal, it is more than 500% as compared to 1.5 degrees Celsius. That means we are doing massively as far as the production of the fossil fuel resources are concerned, and that is going to impact achieving the target of the Paris Climate Agreement. Why this is there? Because governments are providing subsidies on the fossil fuel related resources. Next is regarding Siom River. So Prime Minister has laid the foundation of 2 hydroelectric projects, Heo and the Tato 2 on the Siom River. It is basically a tributary of the Siang River, which is basically also known as the Brahmaputra. Later on it becomes the Brahmaputra, right? Which particular region it is related to? It is the Siom River is related to the region of Arunachal Pradesh. Now it is originating in the eastern Himalayas and then flow from the west to eastern region and ultimately merge with the Siang River, which becomes the later on Brahmaputra, right? Next is Tira Valley. So there have been a massive blast that have been observed in the Tira Valley, and some people are claiming that it is done by the Pakistani forces only on their territory against their own people, right? So that's why Tira Valley was in news. So it is a mountainous tract in the west central Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is a province of Pakistan, right? So Afghanistan-Pakistan border par hai, nearby the Khyber Pass and the Khanki Valley. So Khyber Pass related to this particular region. So if there is a kind of match the following, so Tira Valley and Khyber Pass both are in the similar region. Now there are certain tribes which are like Afridi tribes and the Orakzai tribes, which are the Pashtun tribes that are there. So these tribes are related to which region that were there in news? Tira Valley, right? Lastly, the Tira campaign that was there in 1897-98. So in the context of history, we generally read regarding these particular events also to some extent that there were certain campaigns that were done against the Britishers in order to occupy this particular region, right? By specifically the local tribes like the Afridi tribe, and that were done in the form of jihad. So that's why this Tira campaign was there in news and Tira Valley is there in news, right? Next is quasi-moon. So astronomers have identified the tiny quasi-moon 2025 PN7 orbiting near Earth for about 60 years. That means a quasi-moon, which is not a proper moon, which is not orbiting only around Earth, but last 60 years it has been observed that this is orbiting in the proximity of Earth. Now, basically why they are quasi-moon? Because they are not orbiting Earth, they are orbiting Sun, they are the asteroids, they are orbiting Sun only. But apparently their orbiting is in such a way that they are also appearing orbiting around Earth. They are not getting driven by the Earth's gravitational pull. They are getting driven by the Sun's gravitational pull. That's why they are the quasi-moon, they are not the full moon. Quasi-moon may come, may go. It's not like ki always they will be revolving around that particular planet. So they are the quasi-moon, appearing to travel with the planet due to the synchronized orbit. Primarily influenced by the Sun's gravity, not the planets. Not a true moon, it does not directly orbit the planet. Previously, now question can be asked that this is the first time we have identified quasi-moon. No, there were 6 identified quasi-moon of Earth. The last article is regarding Vyomamitra. We have already discussed regarding Gaganyaan. We have also discussed regarding the Indian space station also, right? So ISRO Chief V. Narayanan revealed the AI-powered Vyomamitra robot which will fly in an uncrewed Gaganyaan mission this year, December mein, right? So it was developed by ISRO. This is a AI-enabled half-humanoid robot. Okay? So it is a female robot astronaut which is equipped with the capability to monitor all the parameters, because when you will go in space, there will be a lot of issues that an individual may face. So this AI simulated robot or the humanoid is going to face similar things, and then we will get to know that whether the human will be able to accustom to that or what kind of changes will be needed in this particular regard. So it is equipped with the capability to monitor the module parameter, issue alert and execute life support operation, because this module can itself create. If you have seen Interstellar, there was certain modules like this, so you can assume that similar kind of module is the Vyomamitra. It performs tasks such as the operating 6 panels and responding to the queries. That means the entire operations can now be done through the humanoid robot, right? So with this, we have concluded the news today discussion of 23rd of September. I hope whatever we have discussed is clear to you. We have tried to discuss in an elaborated manner, and now there are certain questions that will be on your screen. Try to solve those questions, try to post those particular answers in the comment section. Whatever I have asked in the entire discussion, that also you should be posting on the comment section. And I sincerely hope that whatever we have discussed, I have tried to simplify those particular topics that are clear to you. Okay? And also go to the Digital Current Affairs portal and utilize the benefit of it. Thank you everyone. Have a great day.